Aloha, Flow Riders, and welcome to another edition of The Flow. I am your co host, Doc Rock, along with my awesome co host,
Katie.
I don't know why. We're like 111 episodes in that still makes me laugh. I have no idea why. It's really stupid.
Yeah,
It's just a
I do it.
trigger.
I do it entirely for you, Doc. It's just for you, just for Doc
Today,
to make Doc laugh because it's early.
yeah, it's super.
Early in
It's
the
old
morning.
dark 30 over here. Today, we are going to have some fun. We're going to bring in one of the coolest people you'll ever meet. She's absolutely hilarious. So I'll go ahead and let Katie do the bio. Go ahead, Kate.
All right. If you haven't met Christina yet, she is the founder of Publicity by Christina, one of the top podcast publicity agencies in the online business space. Since 2020, Christina and her team have booked clients on 900 plus highly rated podcasts, including Hello 7, CEO School, and Black Entrepreneur Experience, and professional stages like the Conference for Administrative Excellence and EA Ignite. We are talking all about podcast publicity today. We're so excited to have Christina join the show.
This is cool. Kate, you always talk about Ignite because it's near the office, right? It's in Boston.
I actually don't know. This is a great question for Christina, where Ignite
Oh.
is.
That is a great question because I don't know off the top of my
We'll put her on the
where
spot.
it is. At first I wanted to say Vegas, but I think that's the other one you mentioned. So I'm not quite
All right.
sure. I'm not quite sure.
There we go. Whatever happened in Vegas needs to stay over there anyway.
I think this is like absolutely fantastic timing that we have you on, Christina, because this week, so on May 14th, we are doing an entire media kit workshop. So we're like in the mindset and in the
Yes.
space of thinking through media, how you get your show and your content out there, whether
Yep.
and you know, we're talking specifically about podcasting today, but these kinds of practices also apply for, you know, live streaming or any kind of show that you have to try to get yourself more out there. So timing
I
is
saw that was happening
perfect.
and I was very excited about it because I fully agree that having like a really solid, great media kit just sets you up for more success, further down the road and just gives you that professionalism that people are looking for, right? So I love that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I
All
think
right.
it's hugely
So
important.
before we dive into questions, I'm going to ask an obvious one.
Yes.
Just due to the fact that when I was in radio, this was something that used to come up with other people at the station. I'm like, we've been doing this for years. Like, what are you talking about? So but anyway,
Oh, I
my
can't wait.
question
I can't
is,
wait. Okay, what is it?
it's a super simple one. I think it's a word that people hear constantly and they don't even really know what it is. So what is publicity slash publicist?
Doc, I'm
Mm.
so happy that you asked this question. I really, truly am, because I could ask 10 different people what they think the word publicity means and get 10 completely different answers. Like some people will say, oh, it's sending, sorry, my video. They're saying, oh, it's sending press releases. Oh, it's something like what they do on Mad Men. There's all kinds of different stuff that people kind of think. So the way I like to break it down is your marketing falls into three distinct categories: owned, earned, and paid. Okay. So paid are anything that you pay for, right? So ads, maybe an influencer campaign, something like that where money is exchanged. Okay.
Yep.
And then we have our owned channels. So that's like you guys right here with this live stream that you have. This is a channel where you own the content that goes out. So that could be someone's podcast, someone's website, someone's social media channel. You don't necessarily own YouTube. You don't necessarily own Instagram, right? Unless Zuck's up in here, listening in. But you do own what goes out on those channels. You have control over that. And then earned is where publicity falls in. And that is where no money is exchanged. So meaning we are never paying to get our clients as a guest on podcasts. That immediately becomes an ad. Okay. The second any kind of money is exchanged. So that's where publicity really comes into play. You are leveraging other people's audiences. And in exchange, you are bringing value to their audience, platform, etc. Right? Like I'm going to bring I'm going to be sending this to the people that I know once this is aired, etc. And here I am talking with Doc and Katie today all about the power of podcast publicity. So bringing value to them. And I think a lot of people overlook publicity because it's not a thing they can control. Okay. And so what I mean by that is you control how much money you spend on ads, and you control necessarily what that might look like on the back end to your mind, whether that's successful or not. You get to control what goes out on your platforms. But when it comes to earned marketing and earned media, you don't necessarily have control. That's hard for a lot of people to kind of grapple with sometimes.
Yeah, us
Love
Virgo
it.
control freaks
Love
over here.
But because of that, it is the most highly trusted form of marketing. So when someone hears you on someone else's platform, when they read an article about you, something like that, their know, like, and trust factor goes up dramatically, right? We have really savvy consumers today. They know when things are an ad. They know, when you're talking about yourself on your own platform, but they really, really trust when it's someone else's platform that you've been brought on to talk about your area of expertise.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
I
it's
really like that. Thank you.
hugely, hugely important. Which is great. Great kickoff question, Doc. Because my follow-up question is, what makes this space so important for people now more than ever? So I think that, as kind of the podcasting space continues to grow and shift and change, why should people really be thinking about being a guest on shows and trying to have guests potentially on their shows as well?
I think the main thing is the authenticity building that happens. We are so jaded. We are so jaded, particularly as online entrepreneurs, to, can I really trust this person? Am I going to get burned? Does this person actually know what they're talking about? Right. And so having these authentic conversations really gives you the opportunity to be able to show people the real you. Right. And that is going to attract and repel. And I always say that's okay. I don't need the wrong people. The people that don't like me or don't agree with what I have to say, they don't need to follow me. That's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I am trying to get the people that are attracted to the authentic me over to my business, right? And that is really what that allows me to do. The other thing that's really nice about and important about podcasts, particularly in just today's world, is the fact that you can really be discussing anything. Most podcasts aren't owned by a company. They aren't owned by a corporation, right? Some are, but for the most part, they aren't. And so what I mean by that is you can be having discussions that you might not be able to have in other realms, right? And really get, again, real and authentic about the things that matter to you and your world and your business.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember back in the day when Daniel Savage first came out, people were having cows because they were like, this should get taken down, or this should get taken off from where? It's his. Like, it's public.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to look at it. Like, and it messed people up because they didn't understand how to get rid of basically, totally available and accessible 24-hour talk about sex and intimacy and people's kinks or whatever. And it drove the controllers mad because they couldn't do anything about it. And his show was one of the top one because people who wanted to otherwise find these things out were voyeuristically watching and listening. I don't even know if he's still doing it, but I just remember when that came out, it was such a big deal in the podcast space, and everybody just thought it was crazy. And I guess the current rendition of that would be Call Her Daddy, which I think they just had a meltdown. But yeah, it's really. I love the fact that you say that you can do this about anything, because I know that there's somebody out there right now who is curious about, I'm going to say it again wrong, Katie, but I'm going to try, about wobbles, weebles. Dang it, I never can remember.
I don't have
one?
any here to show people. Woobles.
Woobles, there you go. Why do I always want to call it a warble? Warble is a sound that a
And it
bird
feels like
makes.
they kind of wobble, so it feels like it's a hard name. It's a bad brand.
It's a sound that
Sorry,
a gecko makes. Trust me, I was in Mexico. But yeah, somebody's making a podcast about that, and like this is a podcast about yarn creations that help you calm down and find a creative release and whatever. you can make a podcast about anything. Someone is making a podcast about artisanal water, like which one tastes better, Fiji.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But like it's really
Yeah.
it's really insane, and so I love that. I really really love that.
I love that. And I also think, like, you asked the question, Katie, of like, how does this continue to grow? Honestly, just look at our last presidential election here in the United States, and you can see the impact of guesting on podcasts, right? Doc just brought up Call Her Daddy. There's Joe Rogan Show, these other places where the presidential nominees showed up. And I think that whether love it or hate it, what the results were, I don't think you can deny that showing up and actually having, I mean, kind of as authentic conversations as a political person can have, is exactly what people were really craving. The younger generations, I say younger, like I'm not 42 years old, but the younger generations, we don't watch the news like the older generations did. We listen to podcasts, we watch YouTube, we get our media in snippets, right? We get it when we're on social media channels, etc. So we are not necessarily doing that traditional route of sit down at 9 p.m. and watch the news and watch a whole story there. We might watch 60 seconds of it later on, or we might listen to the audio that they strip as a podcast on our morning walk the next day, but we just flat out are consuming media differently than the generations before us.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And I really think too, and I know Doc is like a glowing example of this, but it's also an incredible opportunity for relationship building. So in addition to in addition to just getting your content, your brand, your business, your whatever out there into the world in front of ideally your target community, your target following, I will say, even for myself personally, like being a guest, and I almost never say no to the opportunities that come up. But
Good.
being a guest on the shows has deepened a lot of the relationships that I've had, and has formed really great relationships going forward. I know, Doc has been a guest on Twit, for example, for years and years and years. And that's like just kind of building and growing that relationship, right, Doc? I mean,
100%. It's the idea of something I did a long time ago, because I learned this from a mentor. Um, this was right about the time that the first iPhone came out, and people that know me knew I was a hardcore nerd. But I was like, this is going to be one of the first things that transcends sort of nerd levels when it comes to people buying it. I knew a whole bunch of muggles were going to go out and buy this phone. So I wrote 10 questions with 10 answers, and I sent it to the city desk at the station where my roommate worked.
Awesome.
My roommate was an audio guy at the KGMB, which is the CBS affiliate here, right? And so JP at that time, my roommate, who actually, funny enough, JP owns the Publicity company here now, which is hilarious. But he was the sound guy at the news place back in the day. So I sent it to JP, and he gave it to his news person, and they called me like 2 hours later. They were like, yo, we were looking for somebody locally that could say the same thing that we were getting fed by all the CBS affiliate. We want to go out, to our local Hawaii station. Hawaii people don't necessarily, this is going to sound really mean, don't necessarily trust people from the mainland, because they, kind of came here and took the land away. So they wanted somebody who lives here and understands the local identity, so forth, so on, et cetera. And so from that moment on, back in June 2007, June 29th, 2007 to be exact, every time something weird happens in tech, or there is a scary thing going around about some, virus breach or whatever that's going to mess up all your data, I get a phone call from one of my homies at one of the stations. Wow. Like, hey, can you come on and explain this? And I'm like, yeah. So I am the nerd whisperer to basically the entire state of Hawaii, just because of doing something as simple as that. And I knew nothing about writing a press release, and knowing me, it probably had 85 things spelled wrong, but it got through enough that they knew that this was the right person to bring on. And to this day, I still get it.
The meat was there
Right,
that they needed. I love that you bring this up, because that also goes to show the power of relationships. Like you're just saying, like you sent this over, but because you've provided such good content over almost 20 years, they continue to, isn't that wild that was almost 20 years ago? Anyways, sorry, that just really
Why
like
you
got
gotta bring that up? Thanks,
yeah.
Chris. I thought we was tight.
Sorry. For the record, I was working then too. So just remember that.
The high school newspaper.
Yeah, no, I was at my first PR job then. Thank you very much. Dark Horse Comics, shout out.
I love it.
I love that because again, that just goes to show that, and you just now have that credibility too to other people when you go to talk with them. They've seen you on the news. They've seen
Yeah.
you in their local station. Like that really truly means something to a lot of people from a credibility boosting standpoint.
Yeah.
Love it.
And people also don't care about the reach as much as I think we do sometimes. Cause
Yeah.
so it's been interesting. As I said, I've been doing all these different interviews on like both for my personal life as well as for what we do here at eCam. And some of the podcasts are huge and some of them are small, like, they have like a really niche following. But it's funny that like in my personal network, so like all of, my friends and followers and colleagues on LinkedIn or Facebook or the other different platforms, they're watching, they may not even be watching the show, but they're watching where I am. And it's building this level of authority where they're like, well,
Yes.
Katie's a podcaster. Katie knows like the answers to questions about live streaming, about video, and
Yes.
it's just the act of just aligning yourself with these different shows and kind of you're building like, brand authority. You're building that level of connection for people who are paying attention, even if they're not watching the entire show or listening to the entire show. They're seeing what you're doing and seeing that connection point.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think it's hugely, hugely valuable.
I will always make the argument that I would rather get you in front of an audience of 100 people who really care about what you have to talk about, as opposed to 10,000 people that aren't very interested in what it is you have to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And so when you talk about these big shows versus smaller niche shows, both have insane value, right? And they can kind of have value in different ways. We've gotten our clients on both, right? Both ends of the spectrum. Big shows, and that lends them incredible credibility, authority building, just that proximity of power. Do you know what I mean? Like that means a lot to them. But on the flip side, guess what makes them more money? Smaller niche podcasts. 100%. Our beloved person that we know in common, Liz Wilcox, is a prime example of that. When we worked to get her on shows, she didn't care how big the show was, as long as it was her ideal audiences that she wanted to get in front of. And that is absolutely, because we started working with her when her membership was beginning zero. I was one of the first round of people that joined it. I've never looked back, you know what I mean? But like at that point, she was okay with going on a show and having 5 people join after, 10 people join after. She didn't necessarily care that it wasn't 1,000 people that were joining after a show. And I think that has been a key to like a huge key of her success, is knowing that it's more important to get in front of her ideal audiences, as opposed to necessarily the bigger ones all the time.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense.
I
So
love
what advice would you give to people who are?
It's so cool because it's such a small thing difference.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. What advice would you give to people who are, watching or listening and are thinking, okay, great, like I want to get into this.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't necessarily have, a budget or ability to sign up with someone like you yet. How do they get started? What kind of prep work can they start doing to think about, how to find the right shows, how to set themselves up for success once they send those pitches out? Like, what are the starting points for people?
I want to answer that, but first I want to just say one thing, which is I also know that there are those of you that are listening today that are like, no way. I am never going to go on shows. Like, that is crazy. Like, I can never.
I hope not.
And I am here to tell you that you just need to get started doing it, and it will become easier. And also, many of my clients are introverts. That surprises a lot of people. They always think that it's going to be extroverts, which I'm a stone cold. I get it, but they think that extroverts are like going to be the ones that do this. Not, I couldn't possibly do that as like an introverted person, etc. But really, you are just having a one-on-one conversation, right? You are able to actually have a very authentic, real, deep thinker conversation, which is what introverts love to do. It just happens to be recorded and then played later on. You're not doing it in front of a live audience. You're not doing it. This recording we're doing today is live, but for the most,
I was gonna say, unless you're on our show,
I was like, this one is going to, but the 95% of the shows I do are pre-recorded, right? So I just want to make that clear to y'all that are kind of sitting here and thinking like, I could never do that, that like, actually, this may be exactly a great way for you to be getting out and doing your marketing. Now, like Katie asked, when you're ready, what are some of the things that I would say you should be doing to kind of get started? So the first thing that I really recommend is coming up with some awesome topic ideas. Because I am here to tell you that 9 out of 10 times, the hosts that we work with choose a topic idea that we have proposed to them. Okay. I think that a lot of times people think they're making it easier for a host by just saying, hey, here's a couple things I'm an expert at: sales, marketing, branding. You tell me what you want to talk about, and I'm happy to talk about it. Okay. They think that that's like making it easier. But in reality, you've just given the host a job. Now they have to figure out like, well, what are we going to talk about, right? Like, what's this going to be? So what I really recommend is coming in with a couple really solid topic ideas that are specific, that can oftentimes be driven by results. Like maybe you have a case study, or maybe you have some examples of, how this has worked, and pitching those. This goes way, way back to my journalism days at Oregon State University. We are trying to make it as easy as possible to get to the yes. What is going to make it an easy yes? And by providing solid topics, you are making it easy for that host to see that and go, yes, we haven't talked about that. My audience would love to talk about that. That's a really interesting angle. Yes, let's talk about it. And one thing to note is you're not talking about you. Okay. Let me make this very clear. Like when you go on a podcast, it is not about you. I think people get very like worried about that. They're like, how am I going to talk about myself for a half hour? I'm like, if you're talking about yourself for a half hour, you are doing this wrong. Okay. No one wants to hear you talk about yourself for a half hour. Okay. What we want to hear is for you to talk about what you're an expert in. Again, naturally, that know, like, and trust factor is going to grow because of that. And people are going to find out more about you. But I am never going on a show and talking about the, well, I've done this, and well, when I did this, etc. That would be the most boring show of all time. But I think that people get a little surprised when I talk about the topics. And by the way, a great place to start sourcing some ideas for topics. I call her Chatty G, but the old Chat GPT. Okay. That's what I call her. Everyone kind of has names for their.
I might have to steal that. That might be my new favorite.
I say Chad.
Chad.
Chad,
I like Chad too.
Chad and Claudia and Jiminy, like in Jiminy Cricket.
Claudia, yep, I love it. We all have our names. So mine that I also stole, Katie, so please feel free to steal, is Chatty G. And what I would do is just put in there, like, you could literally drop in your website, maybe drop in your media bio if you have some pieces of content, or even transcripts of things you've already done. Put them in there, and I would be like, hey, what are 8 to 10 podcast topic ideas from this? Let it spit them out to you. And I'm not saying copy and paste those, because we can all tell. We can all tell at this point when things are copy and pasted from Chatty G. But use it as a good jumping off point for you to start thinking about what some really great topics could be for you, and choose like 5 or 6 of those, get those nailed down, and then when you go to pitch a specific show, choose the 2 or 3 that make the most sense for that show.
Listen, you just said something that just kind of blew my head.
I can't wait.
It was when you were saying not to give the host a job. I get told to speak at various things because I am somewhat of a Swiss Army nerd. Like, they know I'm like a Leatherman of weird tech things.
Yes.
And then they're like, well, do you want to talk tech, or do you want to talk about community building, or do you want to talk about podcasting or video? And I'm like, yeah, whatever you want. I could, you know me, I can flex, I can do whatever. And then I never really, I thought I was, you said it verbatim. I thought I was making it easier for them so they could plug me in a hole where it fits. Instead, you're making them work. And
Yep.
it's only, if I could think about it, it's only probably worked out super, super helpful for me one time. And that was we're doing a podcast movement in Denver. And I had my talk, but like two different speakers didn't show up. And they're like, oh, Doc knows this too. Here, let's just plug him over here. And then, oh, let's plug him in on this panel here. So I ended up with 3 speaking slots because they knew I could do all of the above. So now what I think I would do is instead of telling them I could do all the above, I will give them examples of all of the above. And like
Mhm.
this is a tech talk. This is a, you know, how to purchase gear, build your studio talk. Here's a community building talk. Here's a mindset talk. Pick one. I'll just do
Yep.
it.
Yep.
That's so much different than saying, you know me, I can do whatever you want.
You're also displaying, I love this. I love this. And what I also really love is when you do that, you're displaying a different level of professionalism and
Mhm.
expertise as well, right?
Yep.
You are saying, you know, hey, here are the things that I am an absolute expert in that I'm going to be able to hit out the park for you, right? You let me know which of these makes the most sense. So you're still giving them choice. They can still, and by the way, sometimes a host reaches out to us and they're like, I actually love to combine these two.
Mhm.
Or, hey, can I do this, but can we make it like kind of more angled towards this? Absolutely, like
100%.
100%. You know what I mean? But we are giving them those ideas to spark that for them. So it doesn't have to mean that we do it 100% verbatim, but I love this like real-time example you've just given because I think that it is so true for a lot of people. They're just like, let me make this as easy as possible, but in reality you're not. And you know what? We actually, this is a side note, but we had to do this with our daughter. So my daughter has autism, and my husband and I very much thought we were being kind when we would be like, hey, you want to go to the pool? Like literally something she enjoys doing. And she would just be like, no. And then we'd be like, well, we're going to the pool. You know what I mean? And so then it just like became like where we weren't actually being kind, like in that we thought we were by giving her like, hey, you want to do this? Then she'd be like, no. And we're like, well, we're still doing it. So get ready. And so we were like talking one time with her therapist about this, and they were like, so instead of like that, why don't you just like tell her, hey, do you want to go to the park or do you want to go to the pool in 10 minutes or do you want to go in 30 minutes? Right? Like you make it clear that you're doing it, but what time frame does she want to do it on? And then be okay with whatever the answer is, right? With that and respect that answer. And so very different example, but I think it's
No,
a
it's a good one.
of like what that is. Like it's like, oh no, but this is gonna happen. Like so
Yo, oh my God, that's such a good one. Okay, fellas, I want you to hear this real closely. Do not ask your other half what she wants to eat. Say, do you want pizza,
thinking-
pasta, or steak?
ding ding
Because
ding.
if I say to that little person on the other side of the room who can absolutely hear me, what do you want to eat? Oh, I don't know. Well, what do you want to eat? I don't know. You pick. Okay, let's go to Panda Express. I don't want to eat that.
It's so true. It's so true.
It's so true. Yeah.
Mwah,
It's
mwah.
absolutely
Love
Katie, if you see
Yeah.
a roundhouse cake, come in here, call the police.
Nah, it'll be deserved. To be deserved. Yeah, it's you said that, and as you started talking, I was like, that was the exact same thing I was thinking. It's hard to make those decisions, and I mean, I imagine that most hosts are in a really similar position that like Doc and I are, where we're doing a ton of different things. You know,
This
the
is a
opportunity to
full-time
have a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, the opportunity to have a guest on is great, but you expect like the guests that you're booking to know what they are best at, to know what they want to talk about, to know like what things are important to them. Like when we bring guests on, like, you know, we want to know whether or not, you know, they have like an upcoming project that they're working on. Did they just release a book? Do they have a new podcast? Like, is there something that they're going to get out of the experience in the same way that they're bringing value to our audience? It should be mutually beneficial. So yeah,
100%.
my hope is that the conversation is like, that guest is going to show up with like a headshot, a bio that's well written, and some general talking points for what, for what they expect and are hoping to get out of it. Otherwise,
That's exactly
it does.
it. You know, that's exactly it. It's like, how are you both bringing value into this conversation? And one of the best ways that you're bringing value is being very clear on what it is that you're going to talk about, right? And
Yeah.
what you guys are going to be able to discuss and have a real great conversation around. Because yeah, you should absolutely be bringing value to this conversation and to the after effects of when this airs and things like that as well. One of the biggest things that I think people, you guys talked about the importance of relationships, but actually the host relationship, by the way, is one of the most important relationships, or one of the most important things that comes out of podcast guesting. I have gotten client referrals from podcast hosts. I have gotten clients from podcast hosts. I have had many podcast hosts, and I very much like ask this at the end of a recording. I will come and speak in their private marketing, like, or their private membership, their private mastermind, something like that, et cetera, which brings me even more clients, right? So like, don't sleep on those host relationships either, because they are a very, very, they can be a very important part of your business, and also just the time to make really great, like real true friends. You guys have had a real conversation, right? You've had a one-on-one, you've been talking for a half hour, an hour, like they know, that's why they feel more comfortable bringing you in front of their groups, because they know that you know what you're talking about. They know that you know how to get in front of people and explain things clearly.
Love this. Okay, so I like to give the flow riders homework. So, what does a person's, say, first or now improved pitch look like?
Like the pieces of it, like the parts of it?
Yeah, like, because you do this so much, like, these are the winning recipe, right? So we all know that now the secret is out. Good chocolate chip cookies need a splash of pepper. And I think Mrs. Fields did it first, or Debbie, one of them people. But now
okay,
it's a thing,
well, I
right?
guess
Like
my weekend's planned. What?
Oh, like all of the top cookies, like DoubleTree, and they all have a splash of black pepper in it, and that's why also Mexican hot chocolate is so good. Like a lot of people add a little chili. It's not up front and center. It's that secret sauce that nobody knows. Like, why does this taste so good? I have no idea what it is. It's black pepper.
You just blew my mind. But you blew my mind so much, I almost forgot for a second what you had asked before that. Because I got real down a rabbit hole of like, I was like, well, I guess I do add coffee to brownies. I just like really get in there. About it a little bit.
You should see what I add to brownies. I live in Hawaii.
Girl, I'm from Oregon. I know.
Right, there we go.
So, I would say that, am I frozen, by the way? Oh yeah, my thing.
You are. You're good. You're frozen on the perfect possible image.
So I know. At least I was like giggling. All good. After the brownie comment, I love it. So the kind of the winning pieces of a pitch that I really recommend, because what I recommend is that you create a pitch template. Okay. So 80% of your pitch is always done. And so I'll tell you what's kind of included in that. And then I'm going to tell you what we customize from there. Okay. So when it comes to the pitch template, you're of course going to put in some credibility markers. Okay. So those are some things that just make you qualified to talk about what it is that you're going to talk about. Now, to be clear, I don't want a whole resume. I don't want a million things. I just kind of want to know a couple high points there. We're talking like 4 or 5 sentences maybe that are there, but they're really hit home of like, I know what I'm talking about. And by the way, it doesn't need to be that you've done this for 20 years. It doesn't need to be that you've had a TED Talk. It doesn't need to be that you've been on like a million podcasts before. Okay. Whatever you have, like the things that make you worthwhile, put it in there. One tip I like to give people is ask your partner what they would say about you. And you will always find some interesting things, like be like, what are some things I've done? And like, they'll remember things that you have like totally forgotten, because we just like, especially as business owners, I feel like we just keep going. We don't take time to like think of, oh yeah, I did win that award, or I was on that local station. Like I should totally put that in there. We kind of whatever with it. But anyways, get that stuff in there. Then I want you to lead into those topics. All right. So we already discussed the topics, like how to kind of find those, get those, etc. But I would have like 8-ish. I mean, that's not exact, right? You might have 6, you might have 10 that are really, really solid topic ideas that you have in the template. Because like I mentioned, we're going to customize and choose the 2 to 4 that we feel like are the best fit for that particular show. Okay. Then at the bottom, I like to link to the media kit, right? So we talked about this early on that you guys are helping people do that this week, which is awesome. And so I put that in there. One thing I want to mention about the media kit, and I hope this doesn't do right. I don't want this to come across wrong, but I want you to start pitching even if you don't have one yet. Okay. You do not need to have a media kit. Thank you. Having a media kit is wonderful, but I consider that a nice to have on a pitch. Okay. So if you're thinking about like, I want to get this done, I want to get this started, I do not want that to hold you back. Okay. The other things that I'm mentioning are much more important, but if you have them, put it in there. Wonderful. And then I sign off. So this is what I have is kind of the 80% that's always ready to go. And the reason, one thing I kind of want to dispel is I think that a lot of times people think, well, I have to change my topics up every time. I have to change my topics up when I send a pitch. No. This isn't like a 1920s newsroom. Okay, like we're not trying to get the scoop over here, or do anything like that. I actually want you talking about the same general, like different topics, but talking about your expertise on many shows, right? I myself personally have been on, I think at this point, 100 podcasts. Okay. Over my years of doing this, pretty much everyone, there's a focus on podcast publicity, right? Again, it might have a different angle, it might have different takes on it, etc. But that's what they're all focused on. And guess what? That's what people know me for, right? That is exactly what we want for you as well. Okay. So that is what we have as that pitch template. And then what we do is we customize the other 20% of that to that particular post. Okay. So this is the mistake that a lot of people make is they do what we call the spray and pray method. Okay. And so they just send the exact same pitch to maybe a list that they find of 100 different podcast hosts, even if they're not shows that make sense for them. And they just send it out and kind of hope for the best. Okay.
Hope for the best. Yeah.
I hope I get some bookings here. And I am here to tell you, like, if you are wanting to get on quality shows, quality podcasts, etc., this is never going to work. Okay. So you got to be doing that customization aspect of this. Okay. So what I mean by that is you are going to find a show, and we can talk about, if we have time, we can definitely talk a little bit about how you can kind of start research for that. But you're going to find a show, you're going to find the contact info. You're going to start your pitch off with the host's first name. I know that seems like everybody's like, yeah, obviously. I cannot even tell you how many hosts tell me that people write them and just say, dear host, dear podcast name, right, etc. No, not any of you. Not any of you listening today, because I will hunt you down. Okay. You are going to get their first name. It is right under the name of the show on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, it's not even difficult. Okay. But it is taking an extra second and getting that and putting that in there. Okay. Then what I want you to do is listen to a little bit of the podcast. Okay. And so how I do that, I don't listen to a full episode. Okay. Unless I'm like really jonesing to listen to it. But for the most part, I'm listening to like the first 5 minutes. I'm listening to the last 5 minutes, and then I listen to a 5-minute chunk in the middle. Okay. So from that, I'm able to get a really good idea of what is the vibe of this podcast. What I really do in the intro is I listen to how they describe their audience. Okay. So what is the terminology that they use? And then I mirror that back to them in that opening couple sentences. Right? I know you help service-based business owners, right? If that's like the exact verbiage that they use. I know you help freelance CPAs. I know you help XYZ, right? I really loved in the episode how you guys talked about da-da-da-da-da, okay? You're going to put something in there that you genuinely found interesting. My like hot tip on this is when I listen to an episode, I listen to one I'm genuinely interested in. So I might go back a month, 3 months, you know what I mean? Find one that I'm actually interested in, listen to, 10, 15 minutes of that. And then I put something that I genuinely resonated with in there. Okay. I cannot tell you the difference that this makes Because what a lot of people do is they think they're personalizing it by saying, I listened to your latest episode, and then they just insert the name of the last episode. And I thought that it was really great. Anyways, here's about me, they go into it. No, you are going to put a little bit more in there, because you're going to have taken a couple extra minutes to do that work. Okay. Then what I do is I always include a PS. So this is the other thing that I customize. And this is where I will go to their social channels, or I might go to like a blog if they have that, a YouTube channel, whatever they might have. And I just see something that they've been up to recently. Does not have to do with business. Okay. In fact, I even prefer it if it's personal. And I will put that in there. So what I mean by that is like, I'm just trying to think of a example. Oh, recently this lady had this, I was pitching this lady, and she had in her thing, in her stories, a poll on whether you pronounce it. I actually have a sticker on this, but whether you pronounce, wait, hold on. Can I do it? Can I show it? GIF or GIF? Right? Okay. So she had a
It
thing.
is a present, not peanut butter.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. Yes. So I voted GIF, right? Like in her poll. But then when I went down to the PS at the end of the thing, I was like, hey, just so you know, I saw your poll and I voted, I'm team GIF, right? Like hashtag team GIF, right? You know what I mean? These are very little things. I saw someone that had posted like the Lord of the Rings rap anniversary or something. And we're like talking about that. And I was like, oh my God, I had to go watch it. And that was like the funniest thing I saw like all day, etc. These are very little things, but they are
connection points. They're humanity of it all.
Exactly. They signal to that host, oh, this person's actually paying attention. Oh, they did actually go and like look and see what my show is about, who my audience is, whether they're going to be the right fit. And it's what has led us to getting our clients on, at this point, almost 1,000 very high, high level podcasts. And it's because we take the time to do this research. And in my mind, if you are going to do it right.
So,
yeah, that's huge.
Chicken skin over here.
Absolutely. And
if you guys don't have Christina, I gave you a prompt that you can use. And trust me, you can even tell, I just gave you a generic one, but you can tell any of your favorite bots to make the prompt better for you, and they'll improve what I started. But it says, after you listen to the episode and you got what Christina told you, say, analyze this episode, tell me the key points to target audience and what value I can provide their audience. If you're using your bot enough, your bot knows you. You don't have to get crazy. If your bot doesn't know you, that's your fault, homie. What are some information opportunities from this episode, or content gaps is another word you can use, and then use that plus what your own thoughts are and mix them together, and now you're in like Flint. So there you go.
I love that.
What were you going to say, Katie? Sorry.
No, I was literally going to call it the exact same thing. I was like, Doc is dropping value in here.
I love it.
People that didn't see it live got the value. These days, like with
if they
the
didn't
help
see it
of
live,
AI,
then they need to come over here.
I know. But some people watch the edited version. Luis works hard on it. But yeah, no, I do think like the amount of time saving to be able to get to the humanity of it all we're in like such an amazing part of of time right now, where like all of the work to be human is done for you by the robots. So that you can come across as yourself and form these connection points with people. Because seriously, like I am totally this sucker as a host of the shows that I'm on. Like if someone sends me an email and says like, hey, Katie, like we're connected, on Facebook, and I see that you just got ducks. Like, I would totally fall for that. I absolutely would.
You're paying more attention to that pitch than that spray and pray stat, right?
Yeah.
You're definitely saying, oh, this is right. This is like someone that, again, has been paying attention. So I may not necessarily say yes, but I'm definitely going to pay more attention and like look at what it is that they have to say.
There's also way less that can go wrong. So like I'm all about saving time, but in that like template copy paste spray and pray realm, like even if you are incredible at all of that, inevitably at some point in that process, you're going to hit send on that email that still says dear first name, or you're going to like, you're going to make some kind of mistake along the way because you're a person and not a robot. We've all done it. And it's going to feel awful. And you're going to immediately lose all of that credibility that you could have had if you had just literally spent a few extra minutes. Like, and these days, again, it's not going to
Your
be
name.
hours. So yeah, I still
I
save
can
some of
open the
those to make me
mailbox
laugh.
right now. 3 of them in there. I can open it. I don't even have to look. I can. Oh, I just woke up. You guys know. I haven't even looked yet. I can go in there right now and it'll do
Guaranteed.
that. And the other one is like,
Yeah.
oh, we do a podcast teaching you how to improve your podcast. Let us. I'm like, you know what we do, homie? Like, get away.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
some of
I
the
respond
pictures
to
we
those
get
emails,
are
and people are like, "Wow, I heard you on such and such. So you would be such a great guest on more podcasts." I'm like, "That's literally what I do."
like it kills me. It kills me. I saw one recently. I was gonna send it to Katie, but I was in Mexico and I had to meet Jill, and somebody was asking us to do a show about what we do a show about, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
know you don't listen to the context at all, homie. And
Yeah.
then I get every day. I want to like help you like improve your YouTube channel. I'm like, my channel is about coaching people about their channel. You obviously didn't watch anything. Not a drip at all. Super funny. I do want to cover kind of I wouldn't say the last thing because this is a very huge topic, and unfortunately, I think we're stuck hanging out with you more, which
Yeah.
kind of annoys me. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Fastest
Uh,
hour ever. We're like
Unfortunately,
somehow
are.
48 minutes
Unfortunately,
in.
are.
Like, what
you guys,
the heck?
you should see us in the same room. Like it's funny. Like Chris is just amazing human being. But we always like to try to avoid people from making the generic mistakes, like the ones we're talking about. We're getting our email box every day. What
Yeah.
are some of the other, just like to use a word from my niece? What are some of the cringe moments? Sorry, Emma. It's
Yeah, I mean,
given full unhuman.
that just makes people realize like, oh, this person is not this person doesn't know what they're talking about. I mean, just like we said, I would definitely say those moments in your template when you send things. I actually have everything highlighted in yellow on my template that I have to
Smart.
change, because then like at least visually I see like, okay, if they're still yellow, something still has to be updated or changed out, because you're exactly right, that can happen so easily. I think that another cringe thing, at least that I hear from hosts, and this is somewhat on the other side of the equation, but is that you get the yes, you do the episode, and then you never share the episode.
Yeah.
Okay. And I am here to tell you, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Hosts work so hard on their shows. If anybody has ever had a podcast, or I mean, you guys have this live stream and you guys do multiple things a week, like it is a lot of work. Okay. And they are bringing you on, you are coming on as the guest, but truly you're not having to do a lot of the work, right? As the guest, you are coming on, you're getting to share your value. So what I mean, all this to say is like, share the episode with your audiences. Give that host some, appreciation for all the work that they did to put you out there. Get them in front of your audiences too. A couple things that I really recommend in this is, of course, there's like sharing it on socials once it goes live, sharing it in your e-newsletter, right, etc. All those places, putting it on your website and backlinking, etc. But another really great way to do this is when an episode airs, I would see if that host is interested in doing an Instagram live or a LinkedIn live or
Cool.
something like that, like 10, 15 minutes. Like doesn't have to be something great or grand or anything like that, but where you are literally getting them on and you guys talk a little bit, maybe go in a little bit in depth on what you talk about in the episode and then direct people back to that. But this is such a great value add for that host, because they are now going to get in front of your audience in a very real way. And again, you're promoting that episode that you guys did together on their platform, right? Another really great way is to do a blog post and backlink to the host the host show that you are on. A lot of people sleep on blogs, and I think that's a huge miss for podcast guesting, because it's just another easy content. And Chatty G, she can help you with that, put that transcript through and ask her to create a blog post for you. Again, you probably want to clean that up a little bit, but at least again, it can kind of give you the main stuff there. So yeah, I think that kind of people make a lot of mistakes on the back end of being a guest on podcasts that are very, very cringe, or that I see and kind of make me cringe because again, these hosts put in a lot of work, and a lot of times they don't get the credit that is deserved there, because you are never paying to be a guest. Okay? If you have someone who asks you to pay to be a guest, you send them to me, okay? Because we will have some words
Bro,
about that. But that happens a lot. You
a
would
lot.
be shocked at the amount
I'm
of,
like, you are on drugs.
yeah, you are on drugs, in my opinion. I'm just like, you're crazy if you like, yeah, and they'll be like, well, it's just to help cover the production of the episode. It's only $100, it's only $200. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It truly
No.
doesn't matter what the amount is. You could tell me it's $1. I am here to tell you that the second you charge, it becomes an ad, and it is
Yeah.
subject to all different kinds of ethics, regulations, etc. This is what you need to think about how this works. I want everyone to think about the rise of the influencer like 10, 15 years ago on social media, right? And the reason that that all happened was because they didn't have to disclose that they were getting paid by these products or by these places or whatever to be going out there. And we as consumers were like, oh, they just really love this, I don't know, tea, right? Or whatever. And so we're like, I'm just going to buy it. Oh, well, if they like it, then obviously then it'll be great. And all these people got burned, right? By all these things or all these different experiences, et cetera. And then the FTC came along and they were like, no. And so that is why you see now that these things on social will say ad, they'll say sponsored, they'll say partnership, right? They'll say these certain things on them. So you as a consumer are tipped off to knowing that that was paid. That does not happen in podcasts yet. It will, but I would like to be on the right side of it from the get-go. You know what I mean? So absolutely, if someone asks you if there's a payment, I would definitely say to them, do you disclose? That's the first thing we always ask. Do you disclose? And a lot of them as a pride point are like, no, we don't disclose. And I'm like, okay. And then I have a whole like blog post about it, like about how like that is not cool and da all this stuff. But really, I'm just trying to get that message across, because I think that a lot of people just don't understand. They just think, well, I'm paying for this to be produced and I'm getting them in front of my audience, so they should have to help pay for it. I understand that logically. I really, really do. But it is just a completely different set of rules, ethics, et cetera, when it comes to that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're really like, you're technically lying to people. Like there's
I think a lot of people would be shocked if they knew that some of their favorite shows, and by no means is this all shows. I want to be very clear, but just like that, a lot of maybe even their favorite shows charge guests to come on. Wow. And I think that you would look at that host and at those guests very differently if you knew that.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for all of the.
Right, we smoked that hour.
I'm just like, and then they did. I like the box at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this has been so helpful.
Katie, I wanted you. This is from you, and actually, it's somewhat inspired by Luis's show, and I just think it's something we haven't thought about doing, but we should do. So I want to know, from both of you, what is your pod rec for the week? Like, what is it? What is tickling your fancy at the moment?
Oh my gosh.
Ooh. Okay,
first, Christina.
I will share mine. So the one that I have actually been listening to this week, literally this week. So this is a very like what I'm listening to this week is when we were all at Podcast Movement, the Chicago one, Ronan Farrow came and spoke. I loved it. I'm obsessed with Ronan Farrow. So I was like, I got up early, to like go to that one. I was very excited to go to it. But I'm listening to the podcast he was talking about there called Not a Very Good Murderer on Audible right now. So Audible produced that podcast and released that podcast. And I hadn't listened to it yet. So that is actually this week, my podcast that I'm listening to. And in the style of anything that Ronan Farrow does, it's incredibly well-researched, very entertaining, and really good. So it has nothing to do with business, but it is a really nice, like entertaining one that I've been listening to this week.
Well, you're in a
So
safe
good.
space because I never ever listen to, as a rule, never ever listen to business podcasts unless I'm like prepping to be a guest on the show or doing something
Oh,
really
I do.
original. So,
I love I do love a good business podcast, but you know, you got to mix it up. You got to switch it up, and
yeah.
this one, the Ronan Farrow one this week was a good one.
Well, I'm writing that one down because I love all things true crime or murderers or whatever else.
Yeah.
So that one,
Well,
that
she's
one will
an
be on
attempt.
my list.
She doesn't follow through with it, but she
Yeah.
is she's crazy. She's crazy. The lady at the center of it.
I
Oh
like
my
it. I'm in.
gosh.
I'm gonna listen.
I
What
don't
about
even
you,
have a
Kate?
new one. I don't have a new one, Doc. I'm still in my
Just throw one out
rotation.
there. It doesn't have to be
I
new.
so I'm
What's a
but
favorite?
but
Even if
everyone
it's not new, what's a fave?
everyone has heard my top three that I rotate between
Oh, okay.
are Obituary, which is all about death and death customs, and then I listen to Tony and Ryan, which is my like laugh moment where I just think it's like ridiculous and silly, and then Morbid, which is my true crime.
Oh, I do
those are
like
my
Morbid.
those are my three.
Yeah.
Like I just
Morbid is
rotate
good.
between the three, and when I burn through like all of those, then there's like a few other kind of like backup shows I have, but those are my three.
The mains.
Yeah.
All right, I'm
And
gonna
Doc,
give you
how
one.
about you?
Yeah, Doc.
I'm
What are
gonna give
yours?
you one. Okay, so I'm a music head, like hardcore music head, and I am a big believer in. It's really easy. Now, well, my hood rats in the chat will understand. It's really easy to look at the world as like all messed up or whatever, because that's just the noise that people talk. But all this hood rat knows, we would pull out the government cheese and we just cut off the little hard part and then keep the good part. So in the grand scheme of things, there's way more cool stuff happening in the world. It's probably one of the best times to live in. But if you listen to the noise, it would be like that one hard piece of cheese. You just cut that off, right? And so for me, I like to dig into something called Digging the Greats. It's by a dude named Brandon Shaw, and he basically goes in and breaks down like how various songs or hip hop songs or whatever were created and
Oh,
like what's the
cool.
mindset behind it, like a lot of the music theory, so forth, so on, etc. And the latest episode was about one of the most famous songs by Dr. Dre is Still, and that's very West Coast rap. Jay-Z wrote it. Jay-Z
Wait,
wrote
what?
it,
Really?
and yeah, most
Oh,
people
I
don't know
gotta
that. I
write
knew
this
that. I'm a
down.
DJ.
Okay.
Yeah, so digging the greats, you can start at his YouTube channel, and then if that catches your fancy, you could dig deeper into his podcast. So I'll put the link in the video, but he is really good, and I love it because he does also cover a little bit of music theory in there and like why certain things works, like why a D minor 7 just gives you that grungy, like angry. When you watch a scary movie, that's D minor 7.
Oh,
The
really? Okay, so
famous Godzilla.
okay.
Oh, I'll have to
D
check
minor
this
7.
out.
Like
This is
yeah,
Okay.
awesome.
And
yeah, it's
that's
really good.
so interesting. It also brings I saw Sinners this weekend, and so it makes me like I
Oh
want to like
God.
listen to the soundtrack again and like get back into it. That's like the first thing my husband and I said when it was done was A, why did all those attractive people have to die? And then B, wow, that was a really good soundtrack.
Love me a soundtrack. Oh my God.
This must be
Gangs
why
of New
we're all
York is
friends.
still one of the best
Yeah.
soundtracks in the movie Chef. The movie
Mhm.
Chef, number one, dope movie, but
Yeah.
the soundtrack is phenomenal.
Okay.
Absolutely phenomenal.
I love a
So
good
yeah,
soundtrack.
there you
Well,
go. People see, it was
we're
good that you wrote that in the thing, Katie. And
yeah.
Luis has a show called Channels I think you should go and watch. And I just like, you know what? Maybe we should share some recs so people can get
Yeah.
inspiration
Yeah.
to kind of like keep moving because it's so easy to get like, oh, this is such a sad time. You know what? I'm ignoring that mess right now,
Mhm.
and I'm
That's a
trying
good
to find
message.
myself ways to smile. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good message. And I will say, if you are looking for business podcasts, there are a lot of y'all out there that love a good business podcast. One of my favorites is Cubicle to CEO by Ellen Yin. Is a really, really great podcast. And it's a great one if you're kind of a numbers nerd, because every single podcast is a case study. So it is case study based. And it's like a recent
Katie.
case study.
I love a case study.
So I will say, I just want to throw one out there for those of y'all that do love to listen to business ones. That is, in my opinion, a really, really good one.
Oh my gosh. Well, we whether you like it or not, Christina, you would now have to come back because we didn't get through even half of the questions that we
Sorry.
have. So
I'm a
you'll have-
chatter, you guys. You
No,
asked
it's great.
come out
It
there.
was value packed. We never get through all the questions, but clearly there's a lot more information on this that we definitely need to cover. So we will have you back on again to dive deeper.
Thank
And
you. I
hopefully-
loved it. Thank you, guys.
Yes. All
It was
right. Well,
great.
and then
I'm worried about Paul. Paul's comment has me cracking. Katie
Wait,
been
what is
listening to
Paul's
Murder
comment?
Podcast. She says Katie listened to Murder Podcast and she invited me to a marketing team thing in Massachusetts. Should we be concerned? Paul and I are going to the office on Friday. And so I'm gonna just drop Paul off and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna go look for a parking space," and I'm not coming back, Paul.
Next week on Katie's podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Audio Chuck presents.
Oh my gosh.
this
Well,
is so
I don't
good.
want to forget. I don't want to forget to do this because we definitely dropped a little show notes. But let us know where people can learn more about you, and if they want to sign up for services and help with all of this, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. A great place to find out more is to head to podcastpublicityquiz.com. And I have a really fun quiz there that'll kind of direct you, like, whether you're more DIY or whether you might be interested in hiring us to do it. I'm actually going to be doing, I only do it like once or twice a year, but teaching people live how to create that, their template, their pitch template and all that type of stuff is coming up this summer. So definitely get in there and we're going to have some fun.
Awesome. Well,
Let us know.
we will grab that info.
We'll stick it in the email.
Yeah. All right. Perfect.
Meaning Caleb.
Yeah, we will be there. Our team will be there listening and paying attention closely.
I love it.
And if you're still catching this either live with us or before May 14th, we're doing our media kit workshop on YouTube. You can swing over to eCam.com/media-kit, and that'll get you registered for free. And if it's after that fact, replay always available. So still go to that link and we'll send you the link to the replay so that you can learn from some folks on how to build a media kit. We're going to do it like super simple for people who have no idea what they're doing. So I promise you we're going to build it all up and then we can take it to the next level with Christina and her team over the summer. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. I really
thank you guys. I loved it. I appreciate it.
Oh, always so fun.
This was amazing. This is amazing. Val said you coming back because it was fire. And
the audience has decided for you. You don't get to choose. We're just gonna.
I would be happy to. I would be happy to.
We would send Val to your house to sing you awake every day.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Luis, there we go.
There you go. This and every episode of The Flow, you can find out more at flow.ecam.com. It's just absolutely amazing resource because you can leave us reviews, you can ask questions, you can leave us a voicemail, but it's a good way to set it up with your favorite podcast host so you can get The Flow wherever your podcast getting this guide. So go to flow.ecam.com. Also, this episode this week is brought to you by Capsho. Capsho is our favorite shortcut tool to do some of the things that Christina talked about this time, like take your episodes and dig in and ask questions and find out like what sort of social media pieces that you can use to share. Some of those things that it will create for you, like in the lead gen section, that could be part of your pitch. So go ahead and get your Capsho, run your episodes through there, take a look at what it can help you create today, and then get your pitch template put together and go check out the podcast publicity quiz to mix those two together, and you're in like Flynn, like Pat Flynn. .com. Sorry, I broke that one for Luis to edit, but it was too funny. It was too funny.
Well,
man, this is absolute fire, people. Make sure you give Christina all the follows. Show her some love. Share this episode with people who need to hear this, because you know what I say in my show. I don't know who need to hear this, but if it's you, let us know in the comment section below, and then just share it all up because Christina told you to, and you definitely don't want to make her angry.
Don't.
So we like to wrap this sucker up with Flow Riders out.
Bye, everyone.